every time I look at the name of this first poem, I think of Nutella. I don't know why.
We're talking about Nutella or Nullo, Evening Sun, and Esther coming up today.
I mean, Nutella's from a nut that comes out in the forest, right? I mean, it fits the poem.
The poem's interesting because it's so brief. It's almost kind of like it's a very beautiful version of if a tree falls in the woods, would anybody hear it? Something along those lines.
Yeah, but it's way more beautiful, right?
It is, because you've got the pine needle falling, and as it's falling, it's like it's outlined by the sun. It's dripped in sunlight, I think was the exact words there. But it does come down to this question of, the rabbits don't hear it. Doesn't set the forest aflame. And it really is like it doesn't change anything, but we saw it.
You're not going to read it to me? I always get excited when you read the poems. You do such a great job.
I wasn't planning on it, but I can real quick. A spray of pine needles dipped in western horizon gold fell onto a path. Dry molds of cow hooves in the forest. Rabbits knew not of their falling, nor did the forest catch aflame.
Yeah, I feel like it is that if something happens and no one's around to see or appreciate it, does it matter? And I think that it really does, that the underlying things of the forest do still make a difference. That although maybe the animals don't notice these things, maybe as people we only notice certain things, it takes everything together working in harmony to breed true bliss.
Now, something that's kind of interesting with why I wanted to combine these three is in the entirety of this book, never once yet has the word flame appeared. And here we end this poem with a very strange, just sudden change. Like, hey, the forest didn't set aflame when that pine needle fell. And he could choose anything, but he chose it didn't set the forest aflame, which I don't know how many pine needles set forests aflame. So clearly he's drawing our attention to something here.
Right.
Let's go on to this next poem because I want to kind of combine it with this one.
Okay.
So first of all, how many times did you read this story before you figured out what cloyne was or who it was?
I'm still very confused on that. I got to be honest. I read both of them back to back, and I felt like I was more entranced with the forest one and trying to be like, figure out, does the pine needles make a difference? And my mind kept wandering back to that one. So I read this one one more time, Evening Song, and I still am struggling. Is it death? Is kind of what I thought. Maybe she's dying, or I didn't know. The
woman's dying, yeah.
Yeah, the woman's dying.
I think it's hilarious that you just shared that because I have to share that I also had that problem where I was literally thinking cloyne. I'm like I literally thought it was like a tree or something. I'm like, cloyne, like we're discussing the beauty of the tree. Like she, Mother Nature. Like I felt that way for a while. I read it several more times. It made more sense to me once I kind of established it as this man is looking at this woman, whether it be a lover, a wife, something along those lines. Like that's what made it finally click for me. And I had to read it a couple times before. So hey, poetry, sometimes these things mix together. But we've talked before about how beauty is something that Toomer explores in this novel, this short story cycle. And the pine trees were outlined with sunlight. Here he's looking at the wife and she's outlined, set alight by moonlight, right? The polar opposite of sunlight here. So we have two poems almost kind of playing opposites to each other in terms of like the bright energy of the sun and the beauty gaze of night, if you will.
So could this one be interpreted as the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that it doesn't have to be as radiant as a sunrise or a sunset, that the moon and night can be equally as beautiful?
It could be. I would also feel like that I would want to include nature in this somehow, because the first one, it's just the narrator that experiences the beauty and moment. He experiences the moment of nature.
Okay.
Here we see, a woman can be beautiful any time of the day, right?
Agreed.
It's the way that he paints how the beauty changes, like she's falling asleep, and that he sees how that changes, and he almost marvels at her a little bit differently during this moment. I'm actually kind of interested. I didn't have the thought about death, the idea of her falling asleep and that being kind of like the end, the sunset or nighttime. Did you have much more beyond that, or?
Yeah, I was grasping at straws of what is this, and I thought, okay, the sleepy waters, like going to sleep, the eternal sleep, and then water being rebirth. So maybe this is the opposite of birth, being death, and that he's saying goodbye to his lover as like they embrace one final time. So I was grasping at straws. So that, okay, maybe there's some realm where Una's going to help me out and be like, oh yeah, you're totally right.
No, I mean, I think that's actually kind of interesting. Like how sometimes when you say goodbye to someone, whether that is or isn't the situation here, you can certainly see a certain beauty pulled out, right? Like whenever you listen to a eulogy, they highlight the positive parts of the person's life. You don't usually see the
celebration of
life.
life.
Yeah, it's a celebration of life. And in the same way that a person can celebrate and see a pine needle following and then celebrate that moment, so could you also celebrate a person with the kind of passing and seeing a beauty that perhaps you hadn't seen before too. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I guess I was thinking about this one as there's a relationship there, and what is the impact of that relationship? And then in conjunction with the first poem, I kept thinking about the pine needles are falling, and it is making a difference, whether the squirrels or the rabbits or the cows or anything, they notice. It does make a difference for them because when maybe they're scurrying along the ground, it hides the nuts from them. And so you're struggling to get food, or it makes a nice soft bed for them, or it makes it so it's quieter when they're traversing so they don't get, attacked or attracted a predator or something. So I guess I was trying to put those two together because I read them back to back.
No worries. I always encourage that. Let's talk about Esther because let's keep this flame and beauty conversation going because when we get to Esther, I've talked about Dr. Du Bois saying that these women are representatives of real woman. And there's even like a critic out there that says that these aren't picture perfect women. They're shadows of how women are. And no matter how you look at it, there's something to be said about how beauty, whether it be of nature or of people throughout this, clearly Esther is lacking that. We get to her and she has no command over men. And we very clearly see that it's because she's plain. She's not as attractive as other women, right?
Yeah. Do you think this is Toomer writing himself as a woman? That's what I immediately gravitated towards, is that he's passing, and I feel like Esther is passing, and so she's not beautiful to any one particular group because she's kind of stuck in the middle. And she herself doesn't see herself as beautiful until she seems to get attention from someone else. And that, I guess, is how a lot of us are, right? We judge our own beauty of how others are attracted to us, not our own internal beauty or how we love or beautify ourselves.
That's an interesting point because you said earlier that the beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And if you truly are, or like you have those people that have like body images, problems, or they just don't accept themselves for who they are or what they can give to this world, and they really do look down upon themselves. And you, to your point about Esther, I don't know about her being a representative of Toomer, but she does have this line where she says, Esther looks like a little white child. So to your point about her being of mixed race, she looks like a white child, but she's not, right? So that clearly is an indicator that once again we're in the twilight for this book. That is until we get to King Barlow. I thought there was going to be like this connection moment with King Barlow, the way that he's like this, big, black, beautiful man, and he falls into this trance, this religious trance where he's almost like channeling God of some sort. But he just rides away on his big black bull, right? Like it didn't go the way that I thought it was.
I was very surprised as well because I thought we were going to get a big religious turn, or I thought that we were going to get something of, doesn't matter who you are, child, Jesus loves you, or something to that effect. I thought that we were going to be steered down that religious with King Barlow. And yeah, I was very surprised as well that I was kind of confused of like, what's the point of his character, except for it almost felt like just a plot device of moving Esther forward.
Well, we've got a couple of quotes to draw on, right? It says, to the people, he assumes the outlines of his visioned African. And there's also a quote, drew a portrait of a black Madonna on the courthouse wall. So, and he drives away on the black bull, right? So he is fully black, and there's beauty in that. There's value in that, I think. And to your point, it does, leave an impression on Esther to drive her forward, and driving her forward that we do from 9 years old to 16 years old now.
Yeah, big jump.
Well, and here's what's interesting. When we get to McGregor's shop, she sees that it's a flame with the sun hitting it. So it's not actually on fire, but there's that flame word.
It's close.
The third story in a row.
Yeah.
Right? So the first time flame mentioned was Nullo in this entire book. Technically, there's fired when the gun fired in a previous one, but flame being the true representative of this word. And Evening Sun's, the narrator's heart was in flames. And here, when she sees this shop, she imagines flames. What do you think it is with the tie of fire and emotions, or even just burning and setting anew, that's happening here?
I think Toomer's done a masterful job of giving us this idea that fire is passion. It is something that burns hot, and it's inside all of us, and it's just waiting to be ignited. And you need that spark, pun intended, in order to have that flame become alive.
Okay. So whether you view it as a new beginning, Phoenix rising from the ashes, do you remember who she saved in the fire?
It was a baby, right?
It was a black baby specifically, right?
Oh, yes. The black baby. Yeah, very specific. Yeah, that's right.
So whether you take it as, burning, starting anew, Phoenix rising from the flames, she is clearly picking a side for her, I would say her awakening. 16 is a time of emotional awakening. And she chooses to save the black baby, right? So sure, she's potentially choosing a particular pigmentation for her attraction here.
Okay, yeah. I mean, maybe she's not picking it, but she's realizing what is her preference. I don't know if we really pick or not.
Well, is it a preference, or is it what she wants to become too? I don't.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense for sure. Yeah, that's probably it, because that's what she's seen as from everybody else in the representation of the story. That's what is beautiful. So it's the definition of beautiful in this culture.
So when she's 22, right, she's learning the grocery business, and she just has all those fantasies about Barlow and kind of belonging in a sense. Like, I think she wants to belong somewhere. And in her mind, like, her preference, to your point, better word choice, is with Barlow.
Yeah, I mean, it could be preference, or is it what she sees as maybe I'll be accepted, because she's not being accepted. She's not seeing it as beautiful. And if she can live adjacent Barlow, then that maybe people will accept her more because Barlow accepts her.
Either way, she sets aside 5 years of her life.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Just really stuck on this. And once again, we see the windows are aflame. So there's that fire again. And we have just beautiful. I mean, we don't talk enough about we talk about how beautiful the writing is, but we don't really pick like material quotes. But wishes only make you restless. Oh, like sometimes you read lines from this book and you're just like, gosh, Toomer, you're just hitting me left and right. Yeah.
Yeah. You understand people. Wow. No wonder you're an amazing writer.
Yeah. So Barlow is now rich is another thing, right? So he earned his money versus Esther. Do you think she earned it, or do you think she kind of had it in the background?
I don't know if earned, I would say. I think maybe just there.
Okay. Let me read some quotes to you here. So going back to the I feel like we still haven't nailed the right word here, but listen to some of these quotes. She wants her mind to be like that, solid, contained, and blank as a sheet of darkened ice. Okay, interesting to choose the word darkened ice here. We have the house is squat and dark. It's always dark. Barlow is within. And then here's another one. Blackness rushes to her eyes. So as she's coming out from these flames, as she's finally getting this moment to enact her fantasy that she's had for years now, she meets Barlow, and it's just so dark, her perfect dark man. And even her world whether she's fantasizing or not, is completely consumed by this feeling, this desire. There's a combination of what you see is what you get, and also kind of like we talked about earlier with like that pine and the needle in a Nullo, like she's seeing something that no one else is getting, right? And that's special to her in this moment.
Yeah, but doesn't when she finally gets what she wants, she isn't happy? So, I mean, that idea that you never know what you truly want to be happy.
Was it that she's not happy? I think wasn't
Is
the
that the
word
wrong word?
repulsed used? Like there was, she was just,
Yeah.
when she was rejected, she straight up just, she almost like disappeared from the town. It's her being was destroyed by the fact that she defined herself against choosing Barlow in this darkness. And when she got rejected, it destroyed her, literally.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to it, that you shouldn't let something that maybe Esther did, the level of pigmentation, and maybe kind of the lesson here that I took away from this story is that it shouldn't matter, right? And maybe that's what Toomer's trying to tell us, is that shouldn't matter. Everybody should, treat each other equally and love each other equally, no matter what color you look like.
I can even see a little bit of the don't let yourself be so externally defined, right? Because when the outside world changes, right, then
you aren't apt to change with it. Yeah.
Or where's your definition, right? Because she's destroyed when that happens. So there is an element of looking internal and being an essence that has to be defined, I think, with the external.
Yeah, because that's always going to be a sliding scale, right? I mean, beauty standards change all the time, and people change, and what people want will change. And if you are so strict and set like Esther is, then you're going to crack and break when something in society shifts. And that's exactly what happens to her, unfortunately. Wow, beautiful, beautiful story. And I love how all three kind of sort of connect in a roundabout way.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're coming up on, I think we got two short poems, but coming up next is like the Blood Burning Moon. That's a real popular one, so I'm looking forward to talking to you about that. We got a playlist of all the Kane pieces in this that we're going through story by story, poem by poem here. So click on that to join us if you aren't following along already. Peace.
Peace. My name's been Crypto.
Ooh.